Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's episode of the AAA-hole Podcast. I, of course, am your AAA-hole Death Witch. Following me is, of course, my co-host, as always, Ozzy the Australian. Ozzy the Aussie. Say hello to everybody, Ozzy. So we're just going to jump right into it today because I am your AAA-hole, and I am pissed. But this time it's not at the AAA industry. It's not even at the government, despite the fact that the government is involved. So recently... in fact, let me throw up a graphic for you guys watching on YouTube here, so you'll know what I'm talking about. Where was that graphic I had? There we go. All right. So, I don't know. I don't know if you guys knew, but in Pennsylvania, some Congress people in Pennsylvania are talking about video games and violence again, and they're blaming video games for violence again. Nothing new there. But they're taking it a step further because they found the answer. They found the solution, how to stop video game violence, how to stop video games from making people violent in the real world, because that's a thing that actually doesn't happen. But they're going to stop gun violence with video games by proposing a sin tax. It's a 10% tax on video games that are rated M or adults only, so mature rated games in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's a sin tax because they committed the sin of being violent. Now, for those of you who don't know what a sin tax is, that's a real thing. It exists right now on things like alcohol and tobacco. Those are adult items. They're age restricted. And they come with an extra tax, because they're sinful items. I don't know why they have religious context to it, but that's what they call it. They call it a sin tax, and they give an extra 10% tax on those
on
things.
Top of the regular
Yeah, on top
tax.
of the regular tax. So they get an extra 10% tax on top of the regular tax. And they want to add video games to that list. So video games will now fall into the same category if they're M-rated games. And the worst part is this just counts for M-rated games. In general, so they don't even have to be violent. If your game is M-rated because it showed some titties, because it showed some titties, or because it had some bad words in it, same thing. Still gets hit with the tax. They want to lump it in with alcohol and tobacco, and somehow the extra revenue generated from the sales of these games in Pennsylvania will stop gun violence. So I'm bringing that to your attention because I'm not here to talk so much about the tax. I'm sure there's just a ton of people who've already talked about the tax ad nauseum. I don't believe there's any chance that this bill will actually pass and that we'll actually have an extra tax on video games. This is a deflection. It's the oldest, politician trick in the book. Why talk about guns during a conversation on gun violence when you can misdirect and point the finger in another direction and blame it on something else? Because they don't want to talk about guns. So I'm more focused on, I'm about to rant about the fact that video games are the thing that always gets pointed at. Why aren't we pointing at anything else? Why aren't we pointing at movies? When movies tend to be 10 times more violent than even the most violent video game, and 100% more realistic. And by that I mean they use real people in movies. It doesn't get, graphic violence doesn't get more realistic than seeing a real life person murdered on a screen. Even if the murder is fake, it still looks real. Everybody in a video game is fake, and they're fake because they don't look like real people. Not to mention none of the things you're doing in a video game could even be done in real life. Even in the most realistic of shooters, you can't hide behind a rock for 30 seconds and have your wounds healed. That doesn't even happen in movies. But, no one was crying foul during Saving Private Ryan. If we're going all the way back to when this conversation first started. But they always point at video games. They don't point at movies. They don't point at music that typically depicts violent acts in the real world. Rap music is constantly talking about being gangster and shooting people. That's one of the things that they're known for. Other forms of music do it too. Violence is constantly talked about in music. It's constantly talked about in movies. If we're going to talk about corrupting the children, there are plenty of children's shows, children's movies, children's toys, etc. But they don't talk about them. They talk about video games. Because video games have been making headlines recently, with Fortnite being the most popular game in the world. So what I'm getting at is, why do they go to video games? Why do they always point at video games? And the thing I'm about to rant at is you. It's your fault, idiots. Yes, you, dear listener. Don't turn the podcast off yet. Hear me out. But it's your fault. It's the average gamer's fault in general. And this is going to go all the way back. So my theory is, and hear me out, it goes all the way back to the beginning of gaming on a smartphone. When gaming first hit smartphones, it wasn't the microtransaction filled shit show that it is now. It showed potential. It showed a lot of potential, to the point that I got genuinely excited to see the future of gaming on a smartphone. Why? Because it had the potential to introduce the rest of the world to gaming. I'm talking about your stiff, super serious lawyer uncle who would never be caught dead holding a controller. But he'll sit on a toilet with his pants down playing on his phone. And when you
Grandma and Grandpa.
Yeah, and when you had games, PS2 era games being ported to cell phones, this was your way to introduce them to gaming. Granted, a couple generations old gaming, but gaming that's, in the same spirit of what we have now, a gateway, if you will. PS2 era gaming is not that far behind where we are now. Graphically, yes, but concept-wise, no. Grand Theft Auto is still Grand Theft Auto. And Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, these have all been ported in their entirety to a smartphone. You can play with your thumbs on a toilet, on a bus, on a break at work. And adults, yes, wouldn't be caught dead holding a controller because everybody would know they were playing a video game. But if they could sit in their little cubicle, in their little office or wherever, playing a game on their phone, no one would look twice at them. Because games are still considered, somehow, children's toys at this day and age. They're still looked at with that kind of scrutiny. They're still looked at as if they're not made for adults. Even people like Joe Rogan and his podcast and other adults, when they talk about video games and how they used to play but they don't anymore, and people ask what happened, and they always give the same stupid fucking response of, oh, I grew up. What the fuck does that mean? Grown-ups can play video games too. I mean, you played baseball as a kid. You played fucking football as a kid. You didn't grow up and stop liking that too, did you? No. So why is this different? I mean, I get playing with action figures and quote-unquote dolls. Okay, that's a little weird for an adult. I get that. And that's not so much that you grew up and adults aren't supposed to play with those things. It's just your imagination's grown to a point where you need more than an action figure to play out for your imagination to do its thing. Your brain just works differently. But video games aren't like that. Movies aren't like that. Music's not like that. Sports aren't like that. All these things that you also did as children, you still do as adults. So that's piss poor logic, and it's insulting. And video games are still viewed as if they're found in the same section of a Walmart or a Best Buy, as if they're still found in the same section of a toy, of an aisle as your toys, as your Spider-Man action figures. Like, you could fucking walk down the toy aisle at Walmart and find a Spider-Man action figure next to a new copy of the Spider-Man video game. That's not the way it works. It's not the way it happens. They're separate. And we were finally at a point where it seemed like they were being taken seriously. After the late 90s and the early 2000s, where they actually went to court over, video game violence and school shootings, and that lawyer got schooled in court. He put up all that fight and caused all that media attention and then lost. It looked like we were finally going to be taken seriously. And here we are again, back at square one, because we had our opportunity, because we fought so hard to be taken seriously. To quit getting picked on, to quit being blamed for shit that wasn't our fault, and to be taken seriously as an art form. That's all the conversation was back then, was this gamers just constantly talking about it. This is an art form. This isn't, why aren't you treating it like movies? We just want to, we just want you to take it seriously, et cetera, et cetera. And it seemed like we were finally going to get that. And then smartphones happened, and gaming on smartphones happened, and we finally had that way to introduce those people who weren't playing games into the world of gaming to see that art form for themselves and to take it seriously. And what did you do? What did you do, gamers? What did you do, average gamer, person who fought so hard to get where we were? What did you do when those people finally opened their minds and said they were going to give it a try? You laughed at smartphone games, said they weren't real games. You classified them as casuals. You wrote them off the same way those reporters and shit wrote you off in the 90s and in the early 2000s. And you did the same thing to your own gaming community that they did to you. And that's why mobile gaming went down the fucking toilet. Because you weren't taking it seriously. And you didn't care about it, so why should anybody else? So no one stepped in to regulate it. Microtransactions ran rampant. And it became this, that's something soccer moms play. That's something filthy casuals play. Because you did your fucking toxic shit where you call people filthy casuals because they just won't play. Everybody's got to start somewhere. Why would you not want to include as many people as possible into your hobby? That just helps it grow. It not only helps it grow in the sense that it's going to make more money and you're going to get more games that you like. And they're going to get more games that they like. Why wouldn't you want more people involved? The bigger the community, the better it thrives. But it also means the more widely accepted it is, the less likely that it's going to be written off as a toy or used as a scapegoat. Because if everybody's doing it, then when you pick on it, that's why I don't pick on movies. Everybody watches movies. If you blame movies for shootings, then everybody's going to lose their mind. But if you pick on gaming, well, that's just a small community. And it's a small community of mostly kids. So they can write it off as, the children. What about the children? Somebody please think of the children. You did it.
Protect the children.
You did it to your fucking selves. I've said this before about other shit, but this is the big one. Because this is the one that's going to get laws passed. I've said it before about loot boxes. I've said it before about microtransactions, where you did it to yourselves. They wouldn't keep throwing this shit in games if you assholes wouldn't keep buying it. But this is worse, because this didn't involve any money. So your only real excuse here is none. You don't have any. I understand to a point you buy in the microtransactions because you're an impatient little prick and you want the most out of the game and you feel trapped. But no one made you feel trapped into calling an entire group of gamers filthy casuals and writing them off and not taking them seriously. I mean, yeah, there were some casual games there. There was, your Angry Birds, your Candy Crush, etc. But there were also full PS2 ports of games. Full-fledged games. The entire early library of Final Fantasy was ported over. In some cases, even HD remastered.
Yeah, full decent JRPGs.
Yeah, full games at full normal prices, decent prices, going on sale sometimes for a couple of dollars with regular prices of 10, maybe $15. They were reasonably priced. They were full-fledged games. They were the kind of experiences that you use as examples to those people who hadn't played games as to what they're missing out on. And here they have it at their fingertips, their chance to play it and not miss out on it. And you make fun of them for playing on a phone and telling them, well, that's not real gaming. So now they don't know what to believe. Okay, well, then if I buy this game and I try out this thing you want me to try out, you're telling me it's not the same? Well, they don't want to buy a PC in game. They don't want to buy a console in game. That uptight lawyer uncle of yours doesn't want to be playing games on his computer. That makes him feel nerdy. He doesn't want to be playing games on his couch with a fucking PlayStation controller. His wife walks in on that. It makes him feel immature. But playing on the phone feels normal to him. And you ruin that. And by doing so, you started this cycle over again where we're now getting blamed for every fucking shooting again. We're now getting blamed for all the shit that we finally stopped getting blamed for. 10 years ago. You brought it all back. Because you just can't accept a new crowd. Because you just can't accept a new audience. You can't coexist with soccer moms gaming. That feels weird to you? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand the logic behind that. I see any gaming as good. Anytime I can introduce someone who would normally do it into doing it, that's a good thing to me. Because the more they do it, the more accepting they become of it. And, you know, the less they look at you, an adult playing video games, as something weird. Because they're just as guilty. And the more they do it, the more they want to, you know, they might start out at the kiddie end of the pool, but sooner or later, they're going to want to dive into the deep end and really see what's out there. And now they're not because of this crap. And it happened over time. And I know my little podcast isn't going to fix it. It's like my little podcast isn't going to fix microtransactions. Just like I can't convince you assholes to quit pre-ordering games because every time you give them your money for something you don't have in your hands yet, then you have no right to complain when they give you an unfinished product on day one. You literally paid them to do it. And if you stop pre-ordering games and you stop giving them their money until you see what the product is like, if you just wait a day after it launches to see what the reviews are and to try it and say, oh, God, no, I'm not giving you $60 for this. Rent it from Redbox, whatever. If you start doing that, they'll start releasing full games again. You won't get another Street Fighter coming out with half the fucking main menu saying coming soon on day one. You will no longer be paying $60 for half a game. You no more day one DLC. You'll just get a day one game. Remember those days?
No longer get things like Battlefront 2, Assassin's Creed Unity, games that are either so broken they're virtually unplayable, or their monetization is so broken it's virtually unplayable.
Yeah, you won't get that crap anymore. No more Fallout 76s. No more of that. If you quit pre-ordering stuff. If you quit fucking buying the day one DLC. If you quit fucking buying the loot boxes, guess what? They quit putting them in the game. They don't put shit in games that doesn't work. No business does that. No business puts a product on a shelf that no one's buying. They put it out, and a month later it's still sitting there and they hadn't sold a single one yet. They take it down. They take the fucking hint. Well, this is wasting shelf space and no one's buying it. Mark it down, put it in the clearance rack, let's get rid of it and put something else there. It's just business. Vote with your wallet. It's been said a fucking million times, but no. You assholes keep supporting these shitty business practices and you keep belittling your own community and you keep putting us back at square one. So, that's why I think we're getting blamed for school shootings. I mean, yes, it is one part the government needing a way to escape the gun argument because they don't want to talk about it. It's a scapegoat. Yeah, sure, that's one part of it. The taxes, you know, them just wanting money and just seeing how far they can push it. You know, I don't really think the tax is going to happen. I think it's just a publicity stunt. It's media attention because the more media attention they get on this, the less media attention they have on the fact that, you know, gun violence was committed by a guy with a gun. Yeah. You know, I mean...
But let's not bring guns into gun violence. Yeah. They have no issue there.
Yeah, let's not bring guns into that conversation. You know, well, the gun wasn't the issue. Really?
When was the last time a gun was used to hurt someone in a gun-violent attack?
Well, the gun wasn't the issue there, Ozzy. Okay, how he got the gun wasn't the issue. It's how he got the violent thoughts in his head, and that come from video games. Yeah, it's standard issue politician talk. It's bullshit, and that's one part of it. But the reason that they feel okay to do that with video games, that's your fault. That's on you. That's 100% on you. Because if you wouldn't have gone down the path you went down, they'd have to look somewhere else to blame. And they'd find something else. It wouldn't be movies. It wouldn't be music. It wouldn't be video games because video games would be too popular. They'd blame it on something else. Online bullying or online social media. They'd blame it on something else. They'd find something. I don't know what, but it wouldn't be video games. And that's what we should care about. I mean, that's what this podcast is all about. But no, this is going to keep happening. because you guys are going to keep arguing amongst yourselves like a bunch of fucking idiots. You're going to keep looking, at someone playing on their phone as, someone who's filthy casual. You're going to keep throwing around stupid insults like that mean nothing. And don't do anything to help anybody. And just end up hurting the thing that you love. You guys are going to keep going online. You're going to keep bitching about loot boxes. You're going to keep bitching about microtransactions. And then as soon as you're done bitching, you'll pull out your wallet and still buy them anyway. Because that's what you do. You don't want to actually change anything. You want to feel like you contributed by making a comment or two. But then you still were part of the problem at the end of the day. But it makes you feel better. It makes you feel like you justified your purchase if you complained about it after you purchased it, right? Isn't that what it's about? If we're going to get on the topic of microtransactions, isn't that what it's about? Makes you feel, like you can justify your purchase. Like, well, I didn't want to, but I had to. Da, da, da. Yeah. No, you didn't have to. No one put a gun to your head. And if they did, it's because they played a video game, right? Jesus Christ. Bunch of fucking morons. All right, so I'm done with that one. Jesus. That's rant over. Just, oh my God. I got it out there. You guys know what I think of you now. You guys know where the problem is and who the problem is, and it's you. And those of you who are guilty of all those things that I talked about, you know who you are. I know it's not everybody. I know there are gamers out there like me who have fucking standards, who aren't going to pre-order a game, who aren't going to fucking give them their money. I mean, yeah, I'm getting Anthem the day it launches, but only because I'm getting it for $15. I'm paying to try it out. That I feel is a fair business model. Let's go on into that. Since we're getting on the topic of EA. So we'll go on into that. I'll give credit where credit is due. I'm going to be playing Anthem on the 15th in a few days here. But I'm doing it because I only paid $15. And I'll give credit where credit's due for EA on the Origin Access. At least on PC it's fair. Now, I hear consoles, PlayStation gets nothing, and what little Xbox gets out of Access is a pretty shit deal. And the PC deal is far from perfect. It needs a lot of work. It's kind of bare bones, but it has the right idea. So I'll give them credit where credit is due. Should it be used as a replacement to buying games? No, because then A, you'll never own a game, and B, you'll be constantly paying that $15 a month forever as long as you want to play that game. So in the end, you can end up spending more. But if you're going to use it the way I'm using it, and you're going to pay $15, like I did, for 1 month of Origin Access, which gives me access to all those games. Yeah, I have access to over 100 games. I'll probably never play those 100. I did it mainly for Anthem. But I have now I have 30 days to try out Anthem without pre-ordering, without spending any money on microtransactions, without contributing to any of the shit policies that I don't like. But I can support the one I do. I support this subscription. You can play our games all you want for $15 a month, or you can buy the game outright. Give me both those options, and I'm fine with it, because that gives me 30 days at a price of entry that's, close to nothing. It's a little bit more than a month in Netflix.
And plus, I don't also mind this whole idea, because let's just put this random on-the-spot question to you. How many games are in your Steam library as we speak?
As we speak? Let me put my Steam library here. What do I have total in my library? 233 games.
Okay, 233 games. Out of those 233 games, how many have you played? We won't even go with how many have you played recently. How many have you actually played?
At least half. I mean, all right, I'm looking through the list, and I'm coming up with quite a few just off the very top of the list that I bought because they were on sale, and I was interested in them, and I just never got around to playing them. And I know there's a ton of people who have that in their library on Steam that just have a ton of games that they never got around to play.
That's the whole point I'm bringing up with this. That with the whole subscription thing, you've got the list to all these AAA titles now that, okay, you may never play, but you're going to pay less for them than you would buying them individually. And yet, you may keep them for whatever life you use the computer or Steam for, whatever. But you may never even get around to playing them.
Yeah, so, I mean, one could argue that, yes, you own them and that was a one-time purchase, and why, yes, I've spent hundreds upon hundreds on my library on Steam. How much of it is actual value? It really comes down to a question of value, because how much of that is actual value? I go overboard on a Steam sale, and then here we are years later, I still haven't played some of those games I bought years ago. So that was just wasted money, really, because I'm probably never going to play those games. Some of which I only played for 5 or 10 minutes. I thought the game was okay, and I wanted to finish it, but then something else came out, and I dropped it and forgot about it. You know, it's that impulse. It's that impulse buy. And you're right. The subscription model stops that impulse buy. Because if you get the impulse to play a game and you're paying the subscription, well, you've got the game. If you don't get the impulse to play that game and you play something else, you've spent no extra money. You've lost no extra money.
It's the same thing with the whole Netflix idea that, okay, I want to watch a movie. I don't know what movie I want to watch, so I go on, have a look. Oh, there's a movie that looks interesting. I'll watch that. I'm not paying for the movie, any extra for the movie. I can just watch it when I want to watch it, however long I want to watch it.
Yeah, you can watch whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. That's why I think the subscription-based model is great, because it's great if it's used, like I said, as a rental service. I don't think it should be a replacement for buying games. I think you pay your $15 a month the month the game you're interested in comes out. All right.
If there are games on there that you're gonna basically dedicate your life to playing, so there's one on the EA Access that I would definitely play over and over again, and that's the CNC series. You can get the CNC complete collection on Origin. I would definitely play that over and over and over.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good stuff in there.
Games, so I would put down straight to have that complete.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good stuff in there, and that's what I mean is I use it as a rental service. Now, ideally, you'd wait a month or two until 2 or 3 AAA games you're interested in are offered on the service. Then you pay your $15 a month. You try those 2 or 3 games as 30-day rentals. Play them all you want for 30 days and decide which ones you want to buy. Cancel the subscription before the 30 days is up, and then just buy the game you want. You got to try them all, even if you don't want to pay the $15. You want to go with the basic subscription, which I think the first month of that's only 99 cents. You pay $1 for a month's worth of access, and yeah, you don't get the full Anthem game with that, but you get the first 10 hours as part of that service. Well, that's 10 hours to decide if you like the game. That's pretty generous. I mean, there's lots of games that don't even last 10 hours. I beat Resident Evil 2 in under 8. So, 10 hours is pretty generous.
$6.99 a month or $39. I think that might be Australian. I don't know.
Yeah, that's Australian. Cause I think it's $5 a month American. And I did see a deal where your first month's only 99 cents. You get a trial month. So if you've never subscribed before, you can do that first month for 99 cents and try the game. So if you really wanted to try Anthem before you buy it, don't pre-order. Don't fall for this day one stuff. But if you don't want to wait for reviews or you don't trust reviews and you want to try the game before you buy it, because it's a game that's going to require a bit of an investment, you're going to be playing it for a while, you want it to be good. If it's going to be replacing Destiny for you, or it's going to be replacing Warframe, or it's going to be replacing whatever, current game that you're making part of your daily grind. Well, there you go. 99 cents. If you've never subscribed before, pay the 99 cents. Give Origin Access a try. Give Anthem a try for 10 hours. For 99 cents to play the game for 10 hours. My God, that's the cheapest rental fee fucking ever. You get 10 hours to try the game out. And if you're hooked after 10 hours, yeah, it's earned your money. Buy it. If you're not hooked, or you're still on the fence, then just wait. Wait for it to drop down in price and go on sale, and then say, okay, it's not worth $60, but it's worth, but it's worth $30. If you can wait, then wait. The point is, it's best to know firsthand before you buy a game, if the game is good, than to wait for a review, or even worse, to pre-order and hope for the best. Because that's what you're doing when you pre-order. You're fucking rolling the dice that it's going to be good. You're trusting the trailers. You're trusting the E3 footage, which at this point we know is 90% of the time a lie. The trailers we know are 90% of the time misleading. Hell, that happens in movies. God damn, remember the movie for Justice League? A good 2/3 of the scenes in the trailer were cut from the movie. Most of that trailer wasn't even in the movie. So, but I bring this up because we're talking about EA, and I wanted to start on a lighter note. I wanted to start on the thing they did right before I go into the things they're doing wrong again. So aside from the fact that they're talking about layoffs as well, since their stock price plummeted. If Anthem doesn't raise it back up, then they're going to be laying people off because they're greedy douchebags. Instead of their CEOs not having that extra yacht this year, they're going to put people out of jobs. But aside from all that, they have royally fucked the Star Wars license inside and out. They've had that license for the better part of a decade now. And in that time, actual video games they produce, since we're, in that mindset of mobile games not being real games, and I guess they're not at this point because now they're just all, money sinks. They're just money pits. The actual games they produce under the Star Wars license are two. Two! The first one of which was not well received, was a half a game at best for $60, and then on day one they try to say a season pass for $50 to sell you the other half of the game that should have been there. So they've been extorting the shit out of the EA license, out of the Star Wars license, and then they released Battlefront 2, which was shitty to historic proportions. Just greedy and shitty to historic proportions. Led to the most downvoted post on Reddit's history, as well as actually getting politicians to talk about loot boxes in video games. Leading to the point where they did more than actually talk about it. 3 countries at this point have declared loot boxes gambling thanks to the way EA handled their second Star Wars game. Loot boxes are banned in 3 countries now because of this game. So even after all this, you would think Big Papa Disney would step in and take that license away from them. Take that toy away from that kid who's abusing it and is just going to break it. Alright, give it to somebody who's going to show it some love. You would think that would be what happened. But is that what happened? No. No, it's not what happened. Disney stepped in to defend EA and say that they were satisfied.
They were happy.
Yeah.
They were happy with their...
Yeah, they were pleased with EA's handling of the license and trust them to continue to handle it well. So expect more of the same. Or worse. I mean, if we go by the pattern of the games that they've released, they've progressively gotten worse. So expect more of that. That's what's going to happen. It's not going to get any better. This shit show is going to continue.
This says to me only one thing, that basically Disney is only caring about getting that licensing fee, and once they've got it, they don't care what happens. As long as EA can continue to pony up that licensing fee, more power to them. That's basically what I'm getting.
They've not cared about video games for a while. And I'm saying this even with their successful ones. Okay, so like the most recent example from Disney is the Disney Infinity, their Toys to Life game. That was wildly successful. Just insanely successful. It had a strong community. It was actually competing with Skylanders, which no one thought would be possible. It was one of the top names in Toys to Life games when that craze was taken on. It had a strong future, and out of nowhere they pulled the plug on it. Shut the servers down, canceled the game, and just left everybody that bought all those figures, spent hundreds of dollars on those games, high and dry. No more active servers, no more community content, no more of all that stuff that made the game unique, that made the game better than the rest. Took it all away. Because they didn't care about video games.
Figure on your bent or closet table, whatever.
Disney's is only...
You have a nice little thing you can look at, but that's about it.
Yeah, Disney's only focused on movies. I get it. Makes sense. They're really good at movies, and they got a good thing going, and they don't want to drop the ball there. So they're focusing in 100% on movies while they've got the market by the balls. I get that. But is it really that hard to just ask an intern who might play video games what a good studio is to give some of these licenses to that would do it justice? I mean, to just 10 minutes with an outside consultant, just something? I don't get it. I really don't. I get it. I'm not one of the guys in the suits making the decisions, but I'll try my best to put myself in their shoes and to wrap my head around it. And some decisions I just can't. I just don't get it.
That it is damaging the Star Wars brand.
Oh,
it
definitely.
Is damaging.
And this circles back to what I ranted at the beginning here. It's that mentality that video games are toys, and they don't take them seriously. Just like Disney doesn't take toys seriously. Even if the toys damage their brand, even if the toys, when it comes to spoilers for their movies, most of which come from toys. The release of a toy usually spoils a Marvel movie. You know, you find out which characters are going to die, and you find out Thor gets a new hammer before Infinity War comes out because they release a toy of Thor holding a hammer. You know, all these plot points they work so hard to cover up in trailers. They CGI out of trailers, and they, yell at their, put all these restrictions on their actors on what they can and can't tweet and who they can and can't talk to and what they can and can't say on late night talk shows. And then you release a toy that says all of the things you told them not to. Because they don't take toys seriously. They figure, there's not that many people that are into toys, even if a few people are. They see you as a minority. And it's the same thing with gamers. They see gamers as a minority. It might ruin the Star Wars brand for some gamers, but what the fuck do we care about gamers? They're not our core audience. That's the way they see you. So the same way you, dear gamers, saw mobile gamers when that was taken on, when that was catching hold, is the way these companies view you. They lump you in with those casual gamers. Because big companies like Disney don't see hardcore gamer and casual gamer. They don't separate your group. We're all the same to them. We're just one demographic to them. We're a number on a chart. So stop hurting your own. But companies are going to do what companies are going to do. And they're going to be greedy, and they're only going to care about themselves. Which brings us to Activision Blizzard, who have had a rough go of it lately. They lost Bungie entirely. And in losing Bungie, they lost one of their moneymakers. They couldn't even retain the rights to Destiny. Bungie got to take that with them. So they still own the rights to it. Bungie learned their lesson from past mistakes, and Activision didn't. That's what happened there. Bungie's done this before. They left Microsoft. Okay? They left a deal with Microsoft, but during that deal, they lost the rights to Halo, their biggest game. They said never again, and they meant it, and they weren't giving up the rights to their now biggest game, Destiny. Activision didn't learn from its mistakes and figured, they've done this before. The last time they left a company, the company got to keep the IP, and they just had to go off and make a new one. So Activision probably thought that's how this would go down. It didn't go down the way they thought it would, and they didn't keep Destiny. And as much as Activision likes to complain about games, it's a failure. It sold 7 million copies. How the fuck is that a failure? That would be, fucking stellar success for literally any other game, but not for Activision. No, that's a failure. But as much as they like to complain that Destiny was a failure, that Destiny wasn't making enough money, etc., what they mean was Destiny isn't making all of the money. Was Destiny making money? Absolutely. Destiny was one of their bigger money makers. The proof of this is in writing. The proof is in the pudding, as they say. Because after Bungie left, Activision's stock market prices just plummeted, just like EA's did.
The question has to be raised is, did it make more money than you put into it with enough to then fund your next project?
I don't think...
If so, it's not a failure.
I don't think Bungie was making as much in microtransactions as they wanted. That I believe. I think Bungie was still making a decent amount off the Eververse. As much as people claim that they hate the Eververse, there were still a ton of people using it. There were still a ton of people spending money there. Whether you want to believe it or not, it was happening. But I think they were making the majority of their money, and they made a good deal of money off just the constant expansions, which I supported. I have no problem with constant expansions because those add to the game. That's not a cosmetic thing. That's actual fucking content. It's DLC. That keeps the game alive. That keeps the experience going. Every game like Destiny that's supposed to be ongoing has to do that anyway. I may not have liked the fact that they charged for it, but you know what? That's not a new practice. World of Warcraft has done it for years, for decades. That happened as far back as, Diablo 2. That's not a new concept. So I was fine with that. That sounded fair to me. I didn't like the way they gated off some content when they first did it, but they learned from that mistake and didn't gate off content anymore. So they were doing it right, and they were making a ton of money, and it proved itself. Even though Activision said otherwise, it proved itself when their stock market prices crashed. So they've had a rough go at it lately. Bungie leaves, their stock market prices crash, and then what happens? Well, they're left with two choices after their stock market prices crash to keep their investors. They could A, not give their CEOs and executives bonuses this quarter and use that bonus money to pay the investors so the investors stick around and give them more money and they can keep their business afloat and keep their current plans on track. Or...
and keep their employees hired.
Or they could lay off hundreds of employees. Guess which one they chose? If you guess that they laid off hundreds of employees and put hundreds of people out of jobs, then you were correct. Because that's what they did. Or that's what they're about to do. They haven't done it yet, but they announced they're going to make some layoffs. Non-essential staff, But
this is basically the essential of cutting off your foot to save yourself getting kicked in the balls. Okay, the kicking in the balls may hurt, and you're going to be walking oddly for a while, but to cut off your foot is going to do serious long-term damage that you will never recover from. And that is what has happened or is planned to happen with Activision.
Well, they've laid off all these employees and justified it by saying that they're quote-unquote non-essential. I mean, how the fuck could you think this was a good idea? We literally just finished a government shutdown with that whole non-essential argument attached to it. And you know what? They might not be essential to the way something functions, but to a person, because these are human beings you're talking about, to a person who needs that job to support his family, it's essential. Every one of those jobs are essential to the person doing the job. And I get that layoffs sometimes have to happen. But it's when they happen this way, where they didn't have to, where your choices were lay off the employees or don't get bonuses for your executives. And the executives are greedy enough to choose their bonuses over people's livelihoods. That I'm fucking glad that Bungie left. Because otherwise I'd be done with, I'd be done with Destiny or any kind of support for that company. But hey, I can still enjoy my Destiny now because they're not part of that anymore. So good on them. So,
but those services might not be essential at this current moment in time, but you're going to need those services when you start putting out your next Diablo mobile or Diablo 4, whatever that's going to be, the next StarCraft, the next expansion for World of Warcraft. This is basically essentially firing the staff who are on lunch break. You're going to need them when they get back, but you fired them because they now no longer have a job because you didn't want to pay them over lunch.
Yeah, so yes, this comes back to the greed thing, because that doesn't matter, Ozzy. All right, if I fire them now, I get to keep my bonus. And when this quarter is over and I've got my bonus, I can hire them back. So in their mind, they get to keep their bonus and get to keep those jobs because they can just hire new people. And then, you know what they're going to do? I guarantee you this is what they're going to do. At the end of this quarter, all the executives are going to get their bonuses. They're going to get a little bit of bad press now, but they're all going to get their bonuses. And when this is all over, they're going to hire hundreds of employees. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to take to the press, and they're going to pull that whole, "we created jobs" thing to save face. And try to make themselves look like fucking heroes. Moving $5 from your left pocket to your right pocket, you did not just make $5. But that's what they're going to try to make it sound like. They're going to make it sound like they created jobs. I didn't create $5 when I moved it from one pocket to another. But it's in a different place now, so I guess it's a different $5? Yeah. It's smoke and mirrors, so gaslighting you.
Really, what the fired staff need to do now is when they get asked to come back because the company needs them, they should say, right, we'll come back for a 20% pay rise.
Oh, I'm not even saying that they'll bring back the same staff. Because if they're non-essential, then what does it matter if you bring back the same people or hire new ones and create jobs? They're not firing developers. They need those. Those are essential. Those are talented people who know too much about the job that they're doing to be replaced easily. Now, you're talking about receptionists, janitors. You're talking about game testers, people like that. Those low-level guys. Why would you even go through the trouble of keeping up with hundreds of names so you can call those same people back to offer them a job that, in your mind, anyone can do? So you can just hire new people. It's not that hard to find people who want to work for a video game company, and that's the sad truth is it's not. Especially if you're talking about hiring game testers, quality control agents, receptionists, people who answer the phone,
you act like,
that kind of thing.
You act like EA has quality control agents in this industry.
Well, look, I don't know if Activision's quality control agents are worth a damn, but I do know that they're there because they're in the credits to every one of their games. So they're paying somebody to do something. I don't know what they're actually doing because some of their games don't seem to be of quality. Well, I don't know. Activision Blizzard compared to EA, Activision Blizzard's games tend to be more polished. I'll give credit where credit's due. They tend to be more polished. There aren't many bugs I've run into in Destiny. I've played Destiny since launch. I haven't run into many bugs in Diablo 3. Any of the Blizzard games I've played. Hell, I've even played Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Even though I got that game for free, I haven't run into many bugs in that. You don't have to play an EA game for long to run into a bug or a crash or a server error. So credit where credit's due. They tend to be of better quality. So maybe those quality control agents are doing something. But the point is, those are the people that get laid off. Those are the ones that they consider expendable. Those are the ones that they consider easily replaceable. Because anybody can test a game. You don't need any coding knowledge to do that. YouTubers do it for free. You don't need to have a degree in fucking game design to sit at the reception desk and keep people from walking in the building and going straight up to the COO's office. To answer the phones when you get a phone call, to clean the bathrooms in the place, etc.
I'll just correct you there. YouTubers don't do it for free. They now pay the company to do it for them.
Yeah, but that's my point, is they're expendable. So, I don't know, but we are down to our last few minutes of the podcast here. So that'll do it for tonight's topics. This is the part where we throw it to you guys. We throw it to those of you who are here for the live stream, the live recording of it. And And I'll go ahead and pop open the email for those of you who listen and don't actually watch it live. You watch it on YouTube, which we do thank you for doing, or you listen to, you download the podcast off SoundCloud or wherever and you're listening to it. But you still want your voice heard. You still got a few questions, or maybe you even watch on Twitch and you just want to have some comments or ask some questions anonymously. You can always send them to deathwitch@gmail.com, or you can DM me Twitter at deathwitch, and get your questions on the AAA-hole podcast. So Icy Hearts joined us tonight. So he's had a few choice words for Activision Blizzard and EA games, and his response to EA games they're shitty, but they try. I'm not sure what you meant by they try. If it's they try to get your money, they absolutely do. If it's they try to make a quality game, I don't know. I think they try to make a game by a certain deadline is what I think that EA does. I think that they put ridiculous deadlines on their games, ridiculous time constraints, and they don't care at all about the game-making process. And their answer to everything is, we want this game released on this day. We already announced it's going to be released on this day. And if they get a month or two from the release of the game and the devs are like, we're not finished yet, then they just cut whatever content they're not finished, call it DLC, and release the fucking game anyway. That's what I think they do. Yeah, look, Ma, I did a thing and I got a medal. Yeah, they get a medal for participation. So they tried. All right, so going through the email now. Don't got a lot of people in chat tonight. So going through the email now. Let's see. Got a few here.
Activision at least puts polish on the turd. They still put out the turd, but they at least polish it first.
What was that about turds? All right, so I got okay, yeah. So I got an email from someone who wishes to remain anonymous here, who says, what do you think the odds are that loot boxes will actually get banned in America like they've been banned in other countries? So to answer that one,
it will eventually happen. I think eventually being the operative word. Once every other country in the world does it, and there is no longer a market that they can sustain with just America, it probably won't even get banned. It'll just get dropped.
Look, I'm gonna say it this way. In order for it to happen in America, I mean, if we're gonna be realistic and look at it, it doesn't matter how many other countries it's banned in. What it's gonna boil down to is, all right, even if it does happen, we are years away from it happening at best. And that's me being generous and saying that they have intention of it happening, because the U.S. government isn't known for being a speedy process. Okay, it's convoluted. Hell, we can't even keep it open. All right, so don't expect any new laws to get passed anytime soon. But it's not going to boil down to how many other. It's not going to boil down to how many other countries have banned it. It's not going to boil down to, whether or not it's profitable. It's not going to boil down to whether or not it's ethical. It's not even going to boil down to whether or not it's gambling. What it's going to boil down to, and this is the way American politics works for those of you who don't live in America who might be listening or watching this. American politics are fucked. They're corrupt, and we have what are called lobbyists. Lobbyist is a fancy word for I'm bribing you to pass the laws I want. The NRA, being the biggest one, generally pays politicians millions upon millions to avoid the topic of gun control like the plague and to never pass new gun laws. And yeah, doesn't matter how many people die. That's the power of lobbying. I mean, if people dying isn't going to get them to stop lobbying, then gambling affecting your kids, other countries passing laws, us playing follow the leader, that's not going to be enough to convince them either. Because you are crazier than a fish with titties if you think that these big AAA publishers aren't throwing a spare million or two to someone in government anytime they threaten a new law that might hurt their business. And they make billions upon billions a year in loot boxes. Alone, just the sale of loot boxes, not the sale of games, just the loot boxes make billions. So I absolutely believe that if a conversation were to come up in our government, a serious conversation about banning loot boxes because they're gambling, and kids shouldn't be gambling because they're unethical. That if that conversation actually seriously came up, I do believe that they would lobby the shit out of Congress. They would lobby the shit out of politicians and pay them to argue in the other direction, or to just make it drag on in the legislative process for so long that people forget about it and they kill a bill that way. They have their ways of killing bills. So no, I don't think it'll happen without something seriously happening to the game industry before that. What other countries do isn't going to affect it. Even if some kid makes his parents fucking homeless from spending all their money on loot boxes, that wouldn't do it. What has to happen is something seriously bad has happened to the gaming industry to the point that they either A, don't need loot boxes themselves, they just don't use them anymore, or B, I'm talking like 1980s level video game market crash has to happen to the point where they have to reevaluate the entire market and loot boxes are then thrown out. That's probably the only way we're actually going to get rid of them, if we're being honest. If we're being completely honest here. What we got? Loot boxes would turn into cosmetic items only, like they should have been. They shouldn't be. I'll disagree with you there. They shouldn't be in games at all. They shouldn't be games at all. I have no problem with. I think all microtransactions in games, especially for ones like Destiny or like Anthem, that want to keep a longevity and want to keep supporting the game after launch. I think all their microtransactions should be cosmetic only, but I don't think they should be hidden behind loot boxes.
Yeah, I think that's what he meant. That they'll take all the stuff that are in the loot boxes out and sell them individually.
Yeah. And I'm fine with that. I'm even fine with the pseudo loot box way that Fortnite does it. And I say pseudo loot box because there is some randomness to their cosmetics. And there is some, timed buy now or you might miss it out kind of thing. So they do kind of manipulate you some. But at least you see what you're buying. Because they do that whole daily store where every day there's new items in the store. So if you don't buy it today, you don't know when it'll come back.
You see what you're buying and you know how much you're buying it for. Yeah, there is a set price.
But at least you see your product. Now, as for what's in the store, like if they do a daily store thing like Fortnite does, yes, what's in the store is random as far as you know. You don't know what's going to be in there tomorrow. But when you log in, you do see what it is. You don't have to spend money after you don't have to spend $5 spot after $5 spot after $5 spot on a fucking dice roll until you get the thing you want. You just see the thing you want, you log in that day and say, oh cool, that thing I want's in the store. You buy the thing you want, you got the thing you want. But they do manipulate you a little bit by randomizing their store, by randomizing the items that are presented to you on the shelf, and by doing special events and special timed things where it's this cosmetic's only available for a limited time, and if you don't buy it, you'll miss it forever, kind of thing. So they do have their little ways of making you pull out your wallet now instead of saying I'll wait till later. But yeah, I'm even fine with that. Like as long as I see what I'm buying, I'm fine with limited time sales and say because all stores do that. That happens in the real world, so and that's fair. Those are just marketing tricks. I'm fine with marketing tricks. I'm not fine with manipulation. Marketing tricks are fine. That happens all the time. You've got, stuff that comes out in the real world that's limited edition. We only made so many, so that's a limited thing. You better buy it while you can. Sales that only last till this day. You better buy it while you can. Buy it while it's cheap. That happens all the time in real life. That's fine. They need to do MTX things like Path of Exile, pure cosmetic, and you see what you're buying. Oh yeah, definitely. That's what I'm saying. And that, to give EA credit, and like I said, I am trying Anthem, but only because they gave me the ability to rent the game for 30 days for $15. I feel that's a fair deal. Again, giving credit where credit's due, I feel that's a fair deal. And when it comes to Anthem, EA so far seems to be on the right path with it. There's no loot boxes, and they are doing the pure cosmetic only items, and you see the thing you want, you buy the thing you want. Now the pricing might be where I have an issue, but they haven't officially released the pricing yet. The leaked pictures show them being rather expensive. $20 for a skin is ridiculous. But they said that those prices weren't official, so maybe it won't be $20. So given the benefit of the doubt that they do not deserve I'll wait a couple more days until the 15th where I can fire up the game and look at it myself, which is my main reason for paying the $15. So you guys who don't want to pay the $15 or are genuinely curious about the game can pop in here. Yeah, you want me to show you something in the game, you want to know something about it, just ask, I'll show you, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be going through this thing for 30 days with a fine-tooth comb, and if I do end up buying it, it'll probably be on PlayStation. If they haven't fixed the PC controls or the issues on PC, I'll just buy it on PlayStation. I prefer to play on PC, but the PC controls were god-fucking awful during the beta, and if they haven't fixed those, then it's unplayable on PC. Unless the skin gives you a shit ton of bonus loot, it's not worth it. Yeah, for $20, that skin better give me a blowjob. Just saying, that's a ridiculous amount of money for one player skin on a $60 game. I've seen that in free-to-play games, and even then I think it's too much, but when I'm already paying $60 for the game, you know, if you were someone who bought the game on day one and then you logged into the cosmetic store and that's what you saw, that's downright fucking insulting. All right, so we're coming up on our hour here. So I think that'll do it.
That does it for the week, so we'll see what next week gives us.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride, a fun week in the world of gaming news. Hopefully next week will be a little lighter and I can come to you guys with some good news. I mean, I know I'm the AAA-hole, I'm going to find something to bitch about, but dear God, some of this shit was just...
There is talk that there's going to be that Nintendo Switch Direct this week, so
hopefully we'll have a little bit of good news.
We might get something good.
Look, not that I don't enjoy my rants and I don't enjoy, just venting about the AAA industry and letting you guys know the amount of bullshit that goes into it. It is nice to have a good story every now and then, to have some good news to go into it. So maybe next week will give us something better, because this week was just, oh God, unemployment and just bad business practice. It's just fucking bad decision after bad decision. This week was a fucking shit show. So, I hate to end on a bad note, but yeah, there it is. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I don't mean to interrupt.
The rumored leaks to be coming Metroid Prime Trilogy for the Switch, and also Mario Maker 2.
Oh, Mario Maker 2. That sounds like a dream come true if it's done right. All right, so maybe we do have some good stuff to look forward to for next week, but that's going to do it for this week, guys. So thank you for tuning in, if you're here, thank you for being part of the live broadcast of the AAA-hole podcast. For those of you who are listening, who've taken the time to download this and put me in your ear hole for your drive to work, for your commute, for your morning jog, for your whatever. For those of you watching on YouTube, hope you enjoyed the new visuals. The stuff's kind of placeholder. I did this in like 10 minutes. So I'm just kind of playing around with some new graphics. I'm gonna get some custom stuff done. But yeah. If you guys like this style, or you got some, you got some suggestions on what could make the visual element of the podcast that I'm really not putting too much attention into. If you got any ideas for those of you watching on YouTube who actually want something to look at while you're listening to this stuff, you can throw me some ideas. I'm always open to them. So I'm playing around with that. But thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this. We will see you guys next week. Monday night is when we go live. If you want to be part of the live broadcast of the AAA-hole podcast, be here Monday night, 12 a.m. Eastern. That's midnight Eastern. And of course, if you're listening to it or you're watching it on YouTube, we do put up those videos after I've had a day to edit them. They go up first thing Wednesday morning. So middle of the week on Witch and Wednesday is when you can enjoy those. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of this. And we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye, everybody. Ozzy.
See you later, guys.